Welcome in to JSW. We are back here for spring sports. They're in full swing after spring break with baseball and softball traveling to Florida and Myrtle Beach. And then outdoor track and field is gearing up for the start of their season coming up. All that here on Jacket Sports Weekly.
Welcome to Jacket Sports Weekly, Waynesburg University's weekly sports show where we cover the best of the best in athletics. Our analysts discuss a multitude of highlight plays such as touchdown passes.
And Barber's going to throw again, one-on-one. Does he got it in him? That's a catch! Tyler Richmond with flags thrown everywhere makes the catch! Touchdown, Waynesburg!
And ones.
This was low, Waynesburg's going to get it! Suggs is going to pull away here, go for the layup, and it's going to fall in and one! PJ Suggs!
And home runs.
Higgins drives one to left field. The left fielder running back, and that ball is out of here. Grace Higgins.
Join us every Wednesday to see what's new in Waynesburg University athletics.
Welcome into Jacket Sports Weekly. To start us off today, we're going to be going into the indoor track and field season, the packs that happened over spring break. We weren't able to cover that in our last episode. And then looking to the outdoor season, which is beginning on March 22nd. We have Michael McKenzie here with us. Brett Gambita, as usual, here. We're going to be getting into some track and field stuff. So the biggest thing is just recap how those indoor track and field PAC conference championships went for Waynesburg and what to look forward to.
Well, for the men's side, they had a number of all-PAC finishers to qualify for the all-PAC teams. For the indoor track and field season, you had to finish top 3 in your respective event at the championship meet. A number of competitors did that for Waynesburg. First, Jacob Harker, all-PAC first team. He had the first place finish in the shot put with a school record 15.17 meter throw. He threw 4 times. All of them would have been all-PAC first place finishes in the shot put. He dominated that event for Waynesburg, gets the first place finish there. Quentin Weaver, the record breaker, we've talked about him so much here on the desk. He finished all-PAC second team, the second place finish in the 800, running 1 minute, 54.71 seconds, just 0.18 seconds behind the first place finisher in that event. So he was right there on the cusp of getting the first place finish. And then the 4x4 team with Dagan Williams, Noah Jones, Kyle Casella, and Quentin Weaver. They finished third place all-PAC. Honorable mention finish with the third place in the 4x4 with a 3 minute, 30.80 second time. That's the second fastest time in team history for the indoor season. Those are the 3 all-PAC finishes for Waynesburg, one of those being the 4x4 team. The women had a number of top 5, top 10 finishes. They didn't have any all-PAC finishes. Ella Rochelle, 4th in the 400 and 5th in the 200-meter run. The 400-meter run, 1 minute, 0.61 seconds, and the 200-meter run, 26.76 seconds. Both of those were indoor program records for Waynesburg University women, so shout out to Ella Rochelle for that. Maggie Clare, 5th place in the shot put with a personal best throw of 11.57 meters. And then the 4x4 team with Chloe Fields, Addison Blair, Madison Bidnuke, and Kaylee Ayers. They finished 8th place with a 5 minute, 25.20 second time. Whew. That's a lot to go over.
That's a mouthful.
It was a mouthful.
It's good to see all the records being broken and things of that nature, but do you think it will hurt these athletes? A lot of them haven't participated in anything since about February 27th. Indoor or outdoor season is about a couple weeks away now, so do you think it's going to hurt them from having a month off from competing?
I think that's more of a subjective, case-by-case question. For some athletes, having all that time off from actual competition, actually competing in these opens, invitationals, events, that can hurt them. They're out of a rhythm a little bit, not necessarily, or they get out of their groove, their rhythm, their routine, which takes them a little bit into the season to get. There are some athletes that probably could have used that time off to get healthy, get themselves back into a rhythm. They needed the time off, and they'll start the season off fresh, off really well. I think it's a subjective case-by-case thing, depending on what athletes are dealing with personally, injury-wise, and if they're not dealing with anything, it depends on their workout regimen, their personal, working. Like, do they go heavy workouts in the off season? Do they work themselves in a similar way to in season to try to stay in that rhythm? Do they take a little bit of time off and then get into off-season workout type regimens, which maybe lets them start off a little slower than others? It just depends on how these athletes go about their business in the month off.
And like you said, we were talking about Jacob Parker a little bit earlier on, and the biggest thing with these players is that, or competitors, excuse me, is that some of them don't really need to change how they do their workouts, especially with Harker here, with shot put. Shot put indoor versus outdoor, very, very similar, some changes. But the biggest thing going into this is last year, Harker set the third best shot put throw for outdoor with a 14.29 meter throw. And then the second one after that, set in 2008 from Willie Harrington, as a 14.30, so only 0.1 away. And then in the first was 2005 from Adam Lemley, it was a 14.39. Do we think that Harker is going to be able to break that going into this outdoor season? Do you think it'll be early on, later on? He's done very well in the outdoor season. How is that going to transfer into this outdoor for him?
I think he's absolutely going to break it. I think that there's no question about that, the way that he threw in the indoor season. I think it's a matter of when, not if. And I think it goes back to Brett's question. What is Jacob Harker's regimen? What is he doing in the month off? Is he going to take a little bit of time off, then get into heavy off-season type workouts? Does he start the season off a little bit out of rhythm compared to where he was rhythm-wise towards the end of the indoor season, which then I think it would take him a little bit longer, deeper into the outdoor season to break that record? Or is he keeping his workouts and the way he goes about his business similar to in season? It's just a month of not competing, but everything else is the same as it would be in the season, in which case we could see that as early as the Stan Romanowski Invitational to see him break that record. So I think it's a matter of when, not if, when it comes to Harker setting that outdoor record, because we just saw him set the indoor record. I'm not sure the differences in throwing outside, other than maybe in the heat, maybe you get a little more fatigued earlier, or if it's cold, maybe I don't know, your muscles tighten up in the cold. I'm not sure what the main differences are and in what conditions those differences most affect these athletes and competitors, but I do think he's absolutely going to break that record. The way he's throwing in the indoor season, it's a matter of when, not if.
We've given a shout to a lot of the heavy hitters on this track and field team, but is there anyone under the radar that you're expecting to kind of take the next step in this outdoor season?
I'm going to go with Jaleesa Fuller, a women's runner for Waynesburg. She had a top 10 finish in program history in the indoor PA season. The 400 finished 6th place overall with a 1 minute, 3.21 second time. It kind of jumped out a little bit. She's a name that hasn't been mentioned as much as the others throughout the indoor season. So moving to the outdoor, she puts up a top 10 indoor finish in the 400 meter. I'm looking at Jaleesa Fuller to maybe put up some good performances, some top 10, maybe some top 5 finishes as the outdoor season rolls on.
Well, thank you, Mike, for taking the time with us to talk about some track and field. We're going to send it to Ethan Spozarski for the top 5 plays of the month of February.
Hello everyone, my name is Ethan Spozarski and I'm here for your top 5 plays of February. But before we begin though, we're going to have an honorable mention for the first time here on Top 5 Plays, and it goes to PJ Suggs. Soon to be graduate of Waynesburg University, hits a half-court shot at a Cleveland Cavaliers game for $10,000. I want to give a little PJ shout out there. Awesome stuff there from PJ Suggs. Now we get back to Waynesburg athletics and some moments from February. Starting out number 5, women's basketball, Jules Moorbacher. She goes here on the left, over by the left block, drives in, takes the shot. She collects her own rebound, kicks it all the way out to guess who? Kara McFadden. Hits the top of the key three, 75-63 win for the Lady Jays in the final game of the year. At number 4, Alec Inglemore, one of the senior leaders on this men's baseball team. 2-run double up the right side gives Waynesburg the lead against Penn State Altoona. Waynesburg going to win this game 4-3, only conceding one more run in the game, right before the dreadful Florida trip where they went team would go 2-6. Now we move on to number 3. Mesa Heidemann, 2-run homer to left field. Kiss it goodbye. She gives Waynesburg an early 3-0 lead in this case. And then Waynesburg will go on to score 11 more runs to defeat Penn State Altoona 14-0 in 5 innings. One of 5 times this year, Waynesburg's in a game early in 5 innings. Now we're number 2. We're going to go to guess who? Anton Baker of the men's basketball team. He gets this dunk against Teal in his final collegiate game of at Waynesburg University. dribbles it down, takes the slam, smooth landing, a little stare down to put a little bit of sprinkles on top of that ice cream sundae. But unfortunately, Waynesburg did lose this game 66-51 on Senior Day. And now the number one play of February here on Jacket Sports Weekly. We're going back to the men's wrestling PAC championships, where guess who? Jesse Orban defeated St. Vincent's Nathan Barkley to win the 174-pound championship, his first PAC championship in his collegiate career. Also, 75 wins now on the year for him to finish off his sophomore campaign. But that's going to do it for the top 5 plays of February. I'm Ethan Spozarski, and now coming back next, we're going to send it back to the desk, talk some more baseball here on Jacket Sports Weekly.
Welcome back into Jacket Sports Weekly. We're here to talk about some Waynesburg baseball, and to do that with us, we have Dean Shazer. So, Dean, thank you for joining us here today.
Always. It's going to be like this for the next few weeks.
Yep. Going to be seeing a lot of Dean Shazer up here over the next couple episodes. But
Waynesburg baseball, baby.
Yeah.
To start it off, can we recap the Florida trip here?
Well, recap in a negative connotation. 2-6. That's never what you want to see. But you got the 2 wins, and it is harder competition, especially it being a tournament style of play. They had a positive in the walk-off win when Jordan Mosley hit that walk-off single to right field. But 2-6, a lot of injuries over the course of that break. Trying to find some positives. You have the grad student Seth Bergdolt, who had a big tournament. You also had Alec Inglemore go out with an arm injury, his throwing arm. That's not what you like to see. The backup catcher, Ada Williams, who has over a 400 batting average, now has back issues. The backup shortstop, Noah Gabriel, pulled his hamstring. The starting shortstop, Garrett Comer, has a knee injury. So there's your injury updates from the Florida trip alone. If they can find a way to get those under control and get healthy, this team in conference play, I still feel will have an impact and be one of the top 4 teams within the PAC and find themselves battling for the championship later in the season. But the Florida spot as a whole, as I said, tougher competition, and 2-6. There's some bright spots, but not really anything to lean on for positives.
I think the only big thing that was a real negative was their last game against Gettysburg. No runs scored. It was a 7-0 finish. In the other games, they were able to score. They kept games close. I think that was the biggest thing to overtake is that, like Dean said, games were more heavy competition. These teams were a lot better than Waynesburg has been in their past. And normally for Florida trips, baseball has not really come out on it at the top at all times. So in this case, we mainly look to those non-conference games and those conference matchups of what we see. But the biggest thing is just how do they improve from this 2-6 break over spring break? How do they improve onto this going into their non-conference matchup?
Well, as I mentioned, so for the non-conference matchup, so Muskingum, undefeated. And it's a really good ball club. Like, as you mentioned, I know we talked about it before. They've scored over 100 runs already on the season compared to Waynesburg's mere 50. I think 53 runs scored total is what Waynesburg has. But stay focused. Get out of the Florida slump. It's not 80 degrees here yet. It's not humid yet. It hasn't rained, and there's no rain on the forecast. So the games on the schedule will most likely be played. Get comfortable. Play how you know how to play baseball. And I feel as if culture is one of the biggest things when it comes to baseball teams. And when you have a good culture and guys who trust each other, that's when you stay away from slumps, and that's how you find hot streaks. And when 1 or 2 people get hot, teams tend to get hot, especially in the PAC. I just believe that we're building off each other and playing not with emotion but with heart. I feel like that plays a big part in what this team will be able to do for the rest of the year.
There were a few new contributors over this Florida trip, whether that be transfers or the freshman class. So do you want to talk a little bit about them and what they did for this baseball team?
Yeah, we were talking a little bit about the freshmen, not so much freshmen, but the transfers. Noah Gabriel transfer from Marietta, the backup shortstop. He was batting .250 on the season. Not so many errors, but being a transfer and getting injured, it was a re-aggravated hamstring injury for Gabriel. So that's something you don't want to see, especially the lack of depth when you have to play guys who aren't so comfortable in positions where they usually don't play. Comer, being the starting shortstop, wasn't a transfer this year, but he had 4 errors moving from center to short. And Gabriel's going to be a guy you need to stay healthy at that backup shortstop position. So that's a negative automatically. But Lucas Liebarger, a big diving catch in that game against Capital, the 4-3 walk-off win when Mosley, as I previously mentioned, hit that single to right. Transfer from Slippery Rock University. And Vincent Turner, he's a grad student from Glenville State. It's a college out of West Virginia. Not really sure what part of West Virginia. But he's played 4 games, and he's batting right around 300 or 250, floating in between that. His on-base percentage about the same. But when it comes to transfers, just find your way into this culture. A lot of these guys trust each other. The baseball guys hang out every day. It's part of a team. It's almost as if, like a high school team, it feels as if they've known each other their whole lives, but they've only known each other 2-3 years max. So stay together, trust each other, and I feel like these transfers will fit right in.
You've talked a lot about the culture and the stuff that has really made this team come together, but I think the biggest thing also to look at is that this team is one of the biggest throughout the conference. Within the President's Athletic Conference, they have one of the largest rosters. Now, mainly it looks more towards their pitching core, not really into the utility side of things. But in this case, where there's a lot of injuries that have come up over this Florida break, in these non-conference matchups against Muskingum, Pitt, Greensburg, stuff like that, do you play some of those bench players that might not see time going into those conference games, or do you try and get those guys that have had those injuries and continue to get them to work it out a little bit on the field?
Yeah, absolutely you play the backups, because in game 1 where we saw, was it Penn State Altoona, the first series that Waynesburg played, it was a 1-1 split. They won the first game in a 1-run game. I believe it was 4-3, 3-2, something along those lines. They won the first game with their full lineup. Penn State Altoona had their full lineup. Penn State Altoona played the same lineup in the second game. Waynesburg played everyone at different positions, including all backups, and got smoked. So give these guys chances, as many chances as they can get, because clearly they're not built for it yet. And it was pretty evident during that game 2 of the Penn State Altoona series where they split. So definitely give these guys opportunities, but with injuries, it might have to play scarce, and that's why you have to play these guys. That's why they have to be ready, because stuff like that happens. 4 injuries in 4 days in tournament play down in Florida. They come back for PAC play, which is 2 weeks around the corner. You can't have that. Guys need to be healthy, and if they aren't, you better be ready to step up.
Yeah, you just mentioned it. PAC play coming up here shortly in 2 weeks. What do you think this team needs to do? What do they need to tune up here before conference play?
Well, team ERA of 9.13, I'd say you definitely tune up your pitching. I was talking to Anthony DeFilippo. He was actually one of our announcers down in Florida, as well as Mike McKenzie. I think he's on audio right now. That really doesn't matter. But they were announcing down there, and Anthony told me a big part of their game was fly balls. They let up fly ball in every situation. Runners on base, no runners on base. And fly balls can be shots in the gap. They can be, situational with runners on second and third. The guy moves up from second to third, and the dude on third scores. So it's runs right there. Try to shoot for ground balls. It's hard to aim for strikeouts if you're not a strikeout pitcher. It's hard for that to be your thing all of a sudden. But try to make these guys work for their pitches. Some sinkers, some curves. Don't let them elevate the ball. Keep it on the ground. And as far as hitting goes, same exact thing. They're hitting too many pop-ups, not far fly balls, not well-hit fly balls. Give yourself a chance. This isn't the MLB. Guys will make errors. Hit the ball on the ground. Hit line drives. They're not going to make every play. Errors are part of the game, and especially in Division III baseball, especially in PAC baseball, it's not the highest level of Division III baseball whatsoever, and it was pretty evident as we saw over this tournament. But just have a better approach when it comes to going at the plate. Don't try to hit everything for a home run. Don't be the hero. Play for yourself. Give yourself a chance. So I think that is the biggest part, is limiting the ERA, which is hard. Ethan Earhart, who we relied on this season, thought we needed a huge year, 10.61 ERA. However, one positive from the pitching is the bullpen. Matt Gaskell, great bullpen arm this season. In the Florida trip, he allowed 2 earned runs in the first 2/3 innings he pitched, and then the last 2 2/3 he pitched scoreless. And also, Gavin Pratt has the best ERA on the team, 3.46. He's the starter, not a bullpen guy. And Nicholson, if he stays healthy, 8 innings pitched in relief, no earned runs up to this point. So, bullpen, keep doing your thing. In the other few starters, as in not Pratt, Earhart, Lucy, and Englemore. Sorry, I apologize. Englemore needs to get healthy with that right elbow soreness, and Earhart just needs to find a way to stay calm, keep his head on the mound.
Agreed. Thank you very much, Dean, for coming on here at Jacket Sports Weekly with the baseball stuff. Make sure to stay tuned for more with him on baseball. But coming up, we're going to be talking some softball.
Unable to watch the live stream? Follow our account on X for live updates on the game. Check us out on Instagram as well for game day posts with all the information you need to know, as well as behind the scenes of each production. Our social media team works the hardest to give the best content to all of our audience. We're even on TikTok. You can stay up to date with WCTV on our Instagram account with clips from each of our shows. And last but not least, subscribe to our WCTV YouTube channel to watch those shows in full length. Check us out from Lewiston, WCTV, and the entire Department of Comm.
Welcome in to Jacket Sports Weekly with some softball now. Joe Schrillo, Brett Gambita with us, and then we have Seth Adams now, who's going to be breaking us down with softball. He's going to be bringing us through the entire season, but now softball travel to Myrtle Beach this time, not Florida. We thought Hawaii, didn't end up being Hawaii. So
Last year. Shout out last year.
Shout out last year. Didn't happen, but Myrtle Beach still had a great outcome. So Seth, break it down for us.
Yeah.
What do we have to look forward to?
There's a lot to unpack right now. This team is 10-1 coming into today. They do play today, but we're going to just break down the trip and go through all of it. So Waynesburg, they put up 70 runs. 70 runs compared to their 23. They only let up 23. They scored 70, let up 23. I mean, what else could you ask for from this team over this trip? That's just the sprinkle. I'm going to give you a whole rundown of what we're getting into, all right? March 2nd, Game 1, Spartanburg Methodist. Not the greatest start. They finished the game with a 9-0 loss in 5 innings. Stemple was on the mound for Waynesburg. They had 4 errors in this game. Not their best defensively. Stemple got the loss. She only had 2 earned runs. Madison Baker was in the game for relief. She is a freshman. Good to see that, but they let up 5 runs in the top of the 6th. Didn't really bounce back from there. Now, this is where it gets good. March 2nd against Wilkes. Sydney Wilson around the circle. She got a 3-2 win. Waynesburg had 9 hits in this one. They were down 1-0 till the 6th, and then a bases-loaded walk would tie it 1-1, but they would give up a run, making it 2-1. But then Heitman, she hit a double, made it 2-2. A sack bunt by Dylan Roberts made it 3-2. Waynesburg got the win. Next day, March 3rd, North Carolina Wesleyan. 10-7 win. Sydney Wilson on the mound. Who would have guessed? 5 runs second inning. They scored after 3. So it was 6-5 at one point as well. And then a 4-run top of the 7th kind of sealed the deal. D-Mark went 3 for 4. Sydney Wilson went 2 for 4 with a double and 3 RBIs. Higgins went 2 for 4 with a double and an RBI. And then Valley Forge on March 3rd as well. Stemple was on the mound for this one. 14-1 in 5 innings. They had 1 run in the second, 4 in the third. The score after 4 innings was 5-1. You're sitting there thinking, all right, Valley Forge got a chance. Waynesburg put up 9 runs in the top of the 5th. So, yeah, they shut that down pretty quick. Camden Kowalski went 2 for 3 with a triple and an RBI. Madison Best went 2 for 3 with an RBI. Sidney Petrowski went 2 for 2 with a double. Then they played Bay Path on March 4th. 18-1 win in 5 innings. So, I mean, Presley Meadows, a freshman on the mound, good for you, getting her first start and putting up a pretty good outing. She had 2 hits and 1 earned run. They had a 7-run second inning, a 7-run third inning, and they had 19 hits. Come on! Heitman went 3 for 3. She had a double, 2 RBIs. Dylan Roberts went 3 for 3 with an RBI. Then, March 4th, Grove City. That dreaded PAC team. Always got to play them when we're in South Carolina. Why? I don't know. I don't make the schedule. Waynesburg got the win 3-2. Autumn Stepple was on the mound. Grove City scored first in the third. They were up 1-0. Then Waynesburg would bounce back. They put 2 up in the fourth off of Alyssa Rager double, and a wild pitch would score. Grove City would tie in the top of the 7th. However, Sydney Wilson comes in, pinch hits, gets a game winner on a fielder's choice. Okay, Hyman went 2 for 4. Brianna Rice had an RBI, and Mackenzie Kearns went 2 for 3. And the Waynesburg even had 3 errors in this one. Next up, St. Elizabeth, a 7-0 win. Waynesburg would have a 5 runs, 6th inning. Sydney Wilson, this is the Sydney Wilson game. She had 4 hits, only let up 4 hits, had no runs. She went 3 for 4 with 3 RBIs and a triple. Higgins went 4 for 4. Hold on, I'm almost done. Rosemont, canceled, rain. Next one, teleprompter. March 6th against Brooklyn, 9-1, 5 innings. Stemple took care of business. Heitman started the game with a home run, which will lead to a 3-run first inning. Then they would have a 5-run 7th. Game ended in 5 innings. Stemple only let up 2 hits and 1 run. Final game, March 6th, Lancaster Bible, 6-1, Sydney Wilson on the mound. Higgins went 4 for 4. She had a double and 3 RBIs. Sydney let up only 4 hits and 1 run. Wu was up 3-1 after 5. Waynesburg sealed it with 3 runs in the 6th. And that's it.
Do you need some water?
Oh, I'm good, man. Thanks.
I'm a little scared after this.
Was that good?
That was
good?
great. That's exactly what we needed. But I don't know. You good to continue?
Yeah, I'm ready. What's the next question? There's your breakdown.
Well, we're going to be seeing Muskingum and Pitt Greensburg here on the schedule. Actually, I'm looking at the wrong schedule. I'm looking at baseball. We're going to be seeing Carlo and Penn State Greater Allegheny here on the upcoming schedule. What do you expect to see against these 2 teams?
I mean, this team has such a great, I'm going to say it, aura to them. They strike fear in whoever they're playing.
Aura.
But these games, these are non-conference games. You're going against Carlo and Greater Allegheny, like you said. These are games that I feel you kind of experiment with your pitching a little bit. You did it a little bit with one of the games in South Carolina, and it worked well for you. I see Autumn Stemple and Sydney Wilson, those are your 2. They have great ERAs, 1 below 1, 1 just a little bit above. Why not experiment to see what else you got? I know these 2 are kind of your main pitching rotation, but why not try something different and get someone else in there and maybe have them start again? I mean, why not have Presley Meadows start another game? Just to see what she can do. Have some cushion, even though they're 2, I think, the best in the PAC. I mean, Sydney Wilson was a PAC Pitcher of the Week this week, and it makes sense. But why not experiment with that? I want to see some better. I want to see some more depth with the pitching. Give them 2 a break, get them ready for conference play, and then get into it.
You talked about pitching and the pitching rotation between Autumn Stemple and Sydney Wilson has just been incredible so far. Their ERAs are not looking swell. There's a few different calculations you got to take into it, but overall, just great pitching from both sides of them, and it's been what we like to kind of see is like the X factor going into a lot of these Waynesburg games. So do you think that this X factor is going to be the main one going into those conference matchups?
Yes.
Not looking into the non-conference. What's going to be the game changer in those ones? Is it going to be the pitching rotation between Stemple and
I mean, it's going to help. I mean, the pitching, like you said, has been outstanding. I mentioned the ERAs. Autumn Stemple has a .97. Sydney Wilson has a 1.6. What else can you ask for out of 2 of your pitching rotation? It's just been stellar, but the hitting has also been on fire. You got 2 girls who are above 500 in the batting average with above 30 at-bats. You got some that are above 400. Brianna Rice has a 448. Bella DeMark has a 423. Everything is just clicking for them. I think the X factor, it's going to be a mix of both. And I might be bland to say it, but it's true. You have the 2-0 punch with them, right? And then you have the bats that keep rolling. I feel like Grove City was their most shown game of who they are. And they capitalized on a walk-off, and I think that the ceiling is super high. This team, if the bats keep going, keep in mind Mesa Heitman, who is a freshman, who has 2 home runs already and has an OPS of, hold on, let me find it here. It's above, I think, 1,400 around there.
I think it is.
It's very solid.
And our average is a 5.29.
Yeah, I mean, what else? On base, some of them have an on base percentage above 50%.
Yeah.
This whole team is an X factor.
Yeah.
I think it goes into both sides.
You just talked about Heitman. Now, what about, is there anyone else in the freshman classes exceeding expectations, or maybe how about transfers as well?
Yeah, I think that Madison Baker, she got some time, like I said earlier, she got some time on the mound, and I want to see what else they got. I mean, if she's doing well, you also got, excuse me, let me find her here. Presley Meadows and Madison Baker. Those are both freshmen. They're both getting reps in there as well.
Yeah.
So I want to see some. If you got freshmen who are going to be able to pitch, let them pitch. You got Carlo coming up. You got Penn State Greater Allegheny. Why not see what they can do? If they go well, if they're doing well, that's great. Maybe Sidney Wilson isn't having a great game. Maybe Autumn Stemple isn't having a great game. And you know you can put someone in there that you can rely on and kind of fall back on. So I want to see some of those freshman pitchers get more involved.
Well, Seth, thank you for joining us up here to talk some Waynesburg softball. That will do it for this episode of Jacket Sports Weekly. Be sure to tune in every week for new content here on WCTV.
This has been a production of Waynesburg Community Television.